As I visited my parents' graveyard one night, a gruff-looking man came upon me. He ordered me to bring him food and a file, and I obeyed. My uncle Pumblechook brought me to Sadie's house, where I met a brittle old woman, Miss Havisham. She forced me to play. Her daughter was beautiful, but accused me of being coarse and common. Later, a man came to my door. His name was Jaggers. He told me I would leave Joe, my best friend, to receive a fortune from an anonymous benefactor. With it came great expectations. Before I knew it, I had grown to become a gentleman in London. I stayed with Herbert, my tutor's son, and we had dinner with Jaggers, as he was my guardian. His housekeeper was odd, and Jaggers made a point of her wrists. They were covered in scars. After living in London for some time, Joe came to visit. I was ashamed of him and embarrassed by his commonness. He told me Miss Havisham wanted to see me, and I returned to her. She told me Estella had left, and to love her. Not that far after my 21st birthday, my benefactor made himself known to me. He was a convict in the graveyard so long ago, and his name was Abel Magwitch. I was speechless. I then returned to Miss Havisham, whom I had thought was my benefactor all along. Estella had returned, and she informed me of her plans to marry the shallow Bentley Drummle. Miss Havisham told me that she was sorry for hating men, and for making Estella break my heart. It was then that I finally realized that Estella's mother was Jaggers' maid, Molly. Magwitch told Herbert and I his story. His friend Compeyson was the reason that Miss Havisham had hated men all her life. He told us that they had an argument, and that Compeyson was out to find and kill him. We left to execute our plan of Magwitch's escape from London, for he had been exiled years earlier. We ran down the river and were almost out of reach when Compeyson found us. However, Magwitch carried out his vow to defeat Compeyson. Magwitch was caught and became very ill and convicted to death. He died in peace, and that is when I told him that he was the father of a woman who I held very dear to my heart, Estella. I became quite sick, and Joe returned and nursed me back to health, and also paid off all my debts. So many years later, I returned to Sadie's house. Estella was there, and she was sorry for letting me go. I grabbed her hand, and I saw no shadow of another parting from her.